This is not a joke. I watched the season finale of Reacher Season 2, and I felt so bad about my tiny, frail human body that I had to go to the gym before I felt like I could record this video. I should probably talk to somebody about that. Hey, what's up? My name is John Bonjour. I'm an artist and a film enthusiast. I have drawn some art and I would like to enthuse about some film. Today we're talking about Reacher Season 2. The finale just aired, and did I talk about Season 1? No, I didn't. Am I going to talk about 2? Yes. Am I going to address 1? No, I'm getting lost in these questions. I'm going to go mostly non-spoilers, and then I'm going to talk about a couple of spoilers at the end with a warning ahead of it. So if you haven't seen the show, you're fine for now, and I'll tell you when to leave. I mean, you can stay, like do whatever you want, but just like if you haven't seen it and are worried about spoilers, you get it. Overall thoughts on this season. I love this show. I think it's incredible. I really enjoyed the first season, and I was a little trepidatious with how they were going to be able to follow up with that. I didn't know if they were going to keep the character work going, or if they were just going to get caught up in this like sequelitis of everything has to be bigger and more and stronger. And I was kind of worried, honestly, like going into this. And I cannot express to you how happy I am that this season is so good. I think overall, I didn't like it quite as much as the first season, and there's a couple of reasons. I'll get into those later. But really, what's more important, what I want you to go away with more than anything else, this show still rules. And I make as many seasons as you want. Legitimately, if the quality kept up, I would watch 100 seasons of this show. That would be really hard because Alan Ritchson is not immortal that I am aware of. Wouldn't totally surprise me. In terms of writing, I think the season is just as good as the first. Very different, completely different. I think that they focus a lot more on the team aspects and kind of challenging Reacher in some really interesting ways that I wasn't expecting. Throughout the whole first season, and honestly throughout this season, he's this unstoppable monster. So you kind of don't expect him to be challenged or questioned at any point, especially thematically. I thought more than anything, if they were going to challenge him, it would be some equally big, strong brute man. I was very pleasantly surprised that the challenges for Reacher this season were much more internal. The character himself dealing with the life that he's created, the way that he lives his life, coming up against some boundaries and some barriers and some things that it's like, maybe if he were more like every other person, it would be a little better sometimes. I appreciate that the show is willing to question the way that he lives life. Now, does the question, should he murder people, come up? No, of course not. It's not that kind of show. I also completely love all of the added characters. Last season, we got a kind of a little sneak peek at Neely, who's wonderful. I love her. She's such a good character. I don't know if they've talked about a spinoff. I'm sure that internally they've talked about a spinoff, but I don't know if like they've pitched a spinoff externally. I would watch it. 100% I would watch it. She's such a good character, and I just appreciate all the little quirks. She's fits in the same world while I feel like being a little bit different. I would love it if they kind of leaned into the PI. I'm getting off topic. She's a different character. This show is Reacher, but she's a character in the show Reacher. Anyway, the point is, I appreciate her. I like the added special investigators that we get to know more and get to like learn about. I also appreciate that one of them is kind of under question. This is all stuff you learned in the first episode. But I appreciate that one of them is kind of under question. It provides a lot of really interesting team dynamics. A thing that if you just watch the first season, like everyone going into season 2, that was a stupid thing to say. But going from the first season, you kind of don't expect them to touch on teams at all because that season lives and dies on him being alone. I love that season 2 has the strength and the guts to really do something different with that. Something that feels like, oh, we actually wanted to tell a story. And I know that these are based on a book. I guarantee there's other books where Reacher is just going around being Reacher. So you can't completely give the credit to Lee Childs, although credit where credit is due. What an incredible character. I love that the showrunners chose to go with a story that really is something unique, something that sets season 2 apart from season 1. I will also say some of the lines are just better than ever. We'll get to some of those later in spoilers, but for now, just the writing is solid on this show. And then obviously the biggest, no pun intended, positive of the show, Alan Ritchson is unbelievably charming and fun and engaging and interesting and obviously huge as Reacher. Like, he is the perfect Reacher. I never read the books. That is such a bold claim for someone who's never read the books. But for the character that the show is presenting, he plays it perfectly. He embodies that brute force who's also a complete genius. I love that in terms of IQ and body and muscle, he is perfect. And in terms of like social situation, he is horrible. I think that's such an endearing little thing about his character. There's a scene, without spoiling much, where the group gets candy bars from a vending machine. There's only one Clark bar, and a kid takes the Clark bar, and he like The way that he just like stares that kid down, trying to decide if he's going to make a thing about this or not. It's that combination that makes this show gold. Really solid writing, fun little character moments, played brilliantly by great actors. And also just like, dude, save some muscle for the rest of us. I know that this whole show is built around the premise of like, wow, this guy sure is big. Every time I watch this show, I just cannot quite escape the vastness of this man. It is inspiring and horrifying, and I want him to be my best friend. But I also don't think that physicality would work or play well if Alan Ritchson didn't have that extra little winking charm. Anyway, those are all my positives. A couple of negatives, because I think that this season was a slight step backward in terms of quality. Some of the episodes in this season felt way more like filler than the first season had. I felt like for an 8-episode series, if even two of your episodes don't feel like they take you anywhere or do anything particularly special, I don't know, that's not a great ratio. That's a quarter. That is a quarter. So the pacing was definitely a little bit off. It was thrown off by that. I also think probably my biggest negative of the show is that the choreography was not, there was something missing. And I can't tell, I actually can't totally tell if it was the action choreography or the editing. I think it's a combination of both. There are so many great, not one take, but definitely longer takes, longer shots, fight scenes in the first season. This season had cut after cut after cut. They were cutting in between punches, in the middle of punches. It felt like a Taken movie and not like the last season of Reacher. I missed that raw, brutal, well-choreographed, well-delivered action. I feel like that was a linchpin of the show in the first season. And not that this action is bad per se, it's just not nearly as good. I will say, there is a fight scene toward the end of the finale that definitely started to make up for that and did a really good job. I think that the whole finale is exactly what we needed for the show, for the season. But that said, those are kind of my two problems with the season, and that's not horrible, especially if I'm coming away with, yeah, the action might not be great, but it's not bad. And sure, some of the pacing might not be awesome, but it definitely, like, it moves fast enough. I can't really complain. I think it's a solid mystery. It's an interesting, engaging story. The characters are really solid. And first and foremost, it's just more Reacher and more of the same quality of Reacher. So yeah, I'm happy. Now real quick, I'm going to talk about a couple of spoilers and then we'll get out of here. First and foremost, the greatest line maybe delivered by any human is, "I want to throw you out of a helicopter." The build up to that line, the delivery, and then just cut to black. Very rarely do I connect with the line so much that I use it in my day-to-day life. My poor wife has had to deal with any time she asks me, "Do you want blank?" Instantly, my first reaction is I want to throw you out of a helicopter, which is probably not good for a marriage, I assume. But that line was so well delivered and so funny that it just lives in my brain. So I absolutely adore that we build up this character who's supposed to be this master assassin. He's going around killing doctors and everybody, making his way up here. And it's clear that he's kind of a stealth killer, wants to use social situations to his benefit, and that's how he does his thing. That's how he kills people. And I was so interested to see how they were going to do a fight between him and Reacher, because this guy, although very creepy and a solid murderer, not a threat for Reacher. So I was kind of wondering how we were going to build up to that final fight between the two. And when there wasn't one and they just blew him away, like all of them together just shot him. Honestly, such a high risk, high reward move, because the whole season really did feel like it was building toward that. Perfect release of that kind of tension and energy to me. I think it landed beautifully. It made me laugh. It also was just very entertaining. They fired so many times. It's a great scene, and I think it's exactly what you would kind of need from that character ending, especially since we already got Reacher versus an sort of indescribed number of soldiers and Reacher versus the bad guy. I can't remember his name, but Patrick Wilson. Jason Pat? Guy from Terminator. Robert Patrick, especially that fight between him and Robert Patrick on the helicopter where he throws him out of a helicopter. Honestly, I kind of hinted at this before, but last week I was talking to some people about what I was thinking about the show, and I mentioned that depending on how this finale goes, that'll really color my opinion of the whole show. How you end a show is important, and especially for this one, especially at the end of the last episode, wasn't sure. I liked the show up to that point, but if they didn't stick the landing, it would have been pretty solid all the way through. Since, in my opinion, they destroyed it on the ending. I think that they did in a good way. I realized destroyed it sounds like it was a bad thing. They nailed it in the ending. I think that season finale is one of the best that I've seen from a show. It feels a lot like the first season's finale, but not so much that you're like annoyed by it. Just really solid. And I think it really highlighted where we were going this whole time. It shows me that the writers knew what they were doing, putting emphasis on certain things, not putting emphasis on certain things. It's just a well-crafted show, and I feel like it takes you on this really interesting ride. I cannot wait for season 3. I hope that I don't even know what I hope for this show. I hope they spin off for Neely, because she's wonderful. I would watch her just eat cereal. That sounds so creepy. That sounds very creepy. Anyway, I would watch her show, is what I'm saying. And season 3 cannot come soon enough for Reacher. Thank you for watching this video and checking out my channel. If you'd like to hear more of my thoughts on movies, comics, TV shows, big strong men, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, comment down below what you'd like me to review next, or do none of those things because I am not your dad.